what does society look like? I don't know exactly, but I don't think it looks better. I don't see that as an improvement.
And you think somehow or another that allowing gay people to get married contributes to that decline?
I think it contributes to the idea that marriage is essentially meaningless. And so, yeah.
But it's meaningful to those people.
Right, but it has no objective or real significant meaning outside of like...
Other than the ones we discussed about
right.
insurance,
Other than just,
taxes, and
right,
being able to visit your spouse and affirming your love together in what you feel like is a permanent way. You're making a bond. You're making a pact with this other person that you love.
Yeah, it affirms how someone feels in the moment and makes them feel good. But as you said, it might not tomorrow.
Right, but what bothers people is that religious ideology will be imposed upon them in that sense, and that the only reason why people would oppose it in a different way than they were opposing heterosexual people that have no intention of having children is because they have an opposition to homosexuality based on religious beliefs, which they feel like should be excluded, and I feel like should be excluded from law.
Yeah, but I don't think that the question of the definition of marriage is a question of religious ideology. The question of Christian sexual morality and what is, that sort of thing, like that is a religious question.
Yeah.
Definition of marriage isn't, I don't think. It's not merely that, or not only that anyway. And one of the ways that I know that is that marriage has existed as an institution in societies all across the country and throughout history, and regardless of what religion was predominant in those societies. So, I don't think Christians like just invented this idea that marriage is between a man and a woman. Because if they did, then you wouldn't find it anywhere else.
Have other cultures embraced gay marriage in the past?
Certainly today, it's gaining wide approval.
Is that something in the past that people embraced while they embraced heterosexual marriages? Is it a cultural thing?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not aware of any historical precedent going back in history to a culture that would affirm, two men as being married in the same sense that a man and woman are married. I'm not aware of that existing in history. I don't think that it did. Certainly was not common if it did.
When Roe v. Wade was overturned, that was the next thing that people were worried about. They were worried about gay marriage being overturned.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. There's no political will for it. Everything that I'm saying here, you don't see Republican politicians out on the campaign trail saying it. So
no.
It's not going to happen. Then again, I didn't think Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned, and it was. But this is a different sort of thing, and I don't see that on the horizon.
I think this conversation that we're having, one of the more important things of being able to have conversations like this is that people that do have differing perspectives can have a civil conversation on why they believe what they believe.
Yeah.
And this is so sadly uncommon in our culture. And there's going to be people out there that agree with you, that are listening to this, that are like, I am on Matt Walsh's side. And there's going to be people that see my point. But that's part of being a person. Part of being a human being that exists in 2022 is there's a lot of different ways to live your life and a lot of different ways to see the world. And whether or not you and I ever come to an agreement about this, it's not really that important. Well, what's important is that you get a chance to discuss it. And that is what scares the shit out of me about our culture today, that these kind of conversations are not encouraged, they're discouraged, and that someone would say, oh, you're platforming a bigot to have this conversation. You're putting those ideas out there. I think that's one of the things that's led us into this fucking mess we're in right now.
One of the reasons that we can have a civil conversation is that we still, even though we differ widely on really important issues, there's still there's a commonality. We started the conversation talking about gender. So we can agree there's basic biological reality.
We have a lot in common. We're both married. We both have children.
Right. So there's the commonality there too that I think makes the conversation possible.
We both agree in civil discourse and be able to express yourself articulately, and express your thoughts, allowing that person to express their thoughts.
Yeah, but then one of the problems is if I'm sitting across the table from someone who doesn't even believe any of those things,
Yeah.
Then we might be able to refrain from shouting at each other,
Right.
but to have any kind of productive conversation at all is like really impossible because there's just no shared framework at all.
Maybe, but at least people, like in the movie, in What is a Woman, you at least let those people explain themselves, and you made it clear where you stand, and people get a chance to assess these ideas at their for their merits by themselves, which is that's what I think is important about a documentary like yours, not just exposing these horrific practices of doing these things to children before they can even have any idea what the fuck the consequences are, but also that you let people know that the ideological bubble that you're living in is not the only way to see the world. And there's a lot of people out there that disagree. And they have opinions, and a lot of them are very intelligent as well. And we should hear them.
Yeah, and if you're confident in your own viewpoints, then you shouldn't be threatened by allowing people to speak. You know, I think there's a lot of people they're just not really all that confident in what they believe, and so they're afraid to let other people speak. Maybe because at some level too, they're afraid that they'll be, if not exposed intellectually, maybe they're even afraid that they'll be convinced. They don't want to be convinced.
Maybe. I think they just don't want to lose. I think people, a lot of times, they equate their ideas and their positions on things to them as a human, to them as an entity, and anything that opposes things that they've agreed to or believe in or ascribed, they think of that as being an assault on their very being.
Yeah, they
It's
do.
a stupid way to think.
Assault on their being and somehow a danger to them, even physically.
Even violence.
Yeah.
Those ideas are violence, and they cause harm to people.